Just to let you know, we are going to be recording this session, so if you prefer not to be part of the recording, it's absolutely fine to drop off, and if you'd just be more comfortable with turning your camera off, that's fine too. So it's really nice to be here, everyone. My name is Camilla Arnott. Most people tend to call me Cam. So you might hear me referred to as Cam on the call, and that's absolutely fine. Whatever you feel most comfortable with calling me is fine with me. I'm a people lead. I work for And I'm based in Club Murray in Leeds, and I'm delighted to be here as the host today. Shortly, I'm going to be introducing our panelists, but I just wanted to touch on what is Women in Engineering Day. So International Women in Engineering Day is celebrated on June 23rd every year around the world, and it's to honour women in the field of engineering. It focuses on raising the profile of women who are changing the field of engineering one degree at a time. And it's been recognised by UNESCO, and it's a befitting tribute for the anniversary of the Women's Engineering Society, which was established on June 23rd in 1919. So before we get into the session, I wanted to take an opportunity to reflect on why I wanted to participate in today's event. My profession is HR, and for the last just over a decade, I have worked in the field of HR, which you might not traditionally associate with tech, but I have been really lucky for 2 chunks of my career to be working in the tech space. And I actively chose to move back into tech when I was looking for my next career opportunity a few years ago. I love the innovative thinking that you experience on a daily basis working in tech, and I really enjoy supporting people with their careers and their ambitions. I'm very proud to work in a club where our Andes are so passionate about giving back. And I think today is a great example about how our Andes are highlighting an important day and leading the way to encourage others into tech. So now I'm going to introduce our 5 panelists. So hopefully they can wave as I introduce them. So I'm going to start with Heraclea Sava, who is our Associate UX Designer. So if you can give us a wave. We also have Zoya Naz Raja, who's our Associate Product Analyst. We have Shav Peinado, who's our Associate Developer. We've got Kirsty Young, who is one of our Club Murray squad leads. And we have Julie Goodison-Kinder, who is our Delivery Principal in Club Murray. So thank you to everyone who is being a panelist today. And I'm going to ask each of our panelists to share with you their journeys into tech. I'm going to be asking a series of questions to go into a little bit more of a deep dive, and I really hope you find it as interesting as I do. I'm going to get started with the questions for the panel. I am going to give the audience time at the end to ask some questions. If you think of a question midway through, just pop it in the chat and we'll come to it at the end. So those are the intros from me. So without further ado, the first question I'd like to ask is, please can you describe your role on a typical day-to-day? And I'm going to start with asking Julie that question.
Okay, I thought I might be later, but yes, I'm very happy to start. Thank you, Cam. Well, I can genuinely say I never have a typical day, and I absolutely love that. The key kind of things I do is spending time on my client delivery role and making sure that's on track and making sure the team are happy and that they're not having any blockers or issues. There are lots of other things that I do as part of my role, such as financial management. I've got a squad of Andes as well who I line manage. So just making sure they're happy, they're getting what they need out of their role, and that they've got good career progression paths as well. I'm also part of the ops team, and I have my delivery principal role as well. And I also sponsor our gender diversity and tech group as well. So wear lots of hats all day. And that for me is really perfect because giving me lots of different things to be involved in. Well, yes, I'd be really, really, really bored if I was doing the same thing over and over again. And also working in a consultancy gives great opportunities to work with a variety of clients in different industries at a really fast pace. And for me, it's brilliant. That's it for me, Cam.
Thanks, Julie. Next, I'll go to Heraclea.
Oh, thank you. My day is not as nearly as busy as Julie's is, but what I would like to start my day is for me, I'm like a designer, so I like to start a bit more creative. So I like to visit AWW Awards to to give a view of their side of the day. They introduce a new one every day and just really sparks my creativity and to see like something beautiful first thing in the morning. And after that, I like to check my emails and my Slack and just to check any comments if I receive any feedback from my design work from my client, any project updates that I need to be aware. And once I've done that, I can start working from my to-do list, which is mainly vlog designing in Figma, which is our main tool I use at the moment, since my role is kind of heavily UI. But beside that, I also am involving to have a lot of meeting with my clients, trying to understand their needs and their problems, so to make sure that what I design is right for them. And also I like to catch with the rest of my team and add in like a different things. I'm like a people champion, so I can take care of that. And also before I wrap my day, I usually like to prepare my to-do list for the next day. So it just gives me kind of ahead for the next day and I feel more prepared. So yeah, that's my day.
Brilliant. I think that's a top tip as well about writing the to-do list at the end of the day. I might adopt that going forward. Kirsty, over to you.
Yeah, sure. So my day-to-day, well, it tends to start actually in mum mode before I get into work mode. So there's quite a chunk of my day that already begins before I start actually my working day. And that's usually focused on making sure that my two kids are started for their day ahead. That includes trying to remember which day is swimming and which day I need to remember their ukulele, like seriously. Checking different apps to make sure that between me and my husband we've booked their lunches for the week and all of that good stuff that comes with the carnage that is parenthood. And then I can actually relax and start my actual work day. So quite similar to Julie, actually, my work day never consists of the same thing from day to day. In terms of client interactions, I wear multiple hats. So I'm from a sort of more product background. Take on sort of product lead roles, but I've also taken on delivery roles as well whilst I've been at And. So my day-to-day across both of those roles could look quite different. And my interactions with clients in various different meetings and workshops and that kind of thing. Similar to Julie, I also look after a squad of Andes across product and development, so making sure that they're all happy and making sure they've got everything that they need on their client engagements, or making sure that they're focusing on the right things in their own career development is something that I always make sure I spend a lot of time doing and make it a priority of mine. And then I'm usually involved in a couple of different initiatives across the club. So as part of the ops team, I'll take the lead on a few different initiatives that are going on to make sure that we're running smoothly and making sure that it's all a fun place to work and making sure that we're making progress. So yeah, loads and loads of stuff going on throughout the day, which is always good fun. And then usually then back to my other job, back into mum mode at the end of that day. That's usually me.
Brilliant. Super busy. I'm about to become a mum, so I'm sure my days will look like that soon too. Okay, so my second question is, what made you choose a career in technology and how did you get into it? So I'm going to put that to Zoya, please.
Sure. So I didn't actually consciously choose a career in tech. I kind of fell into it. I did my A-levels there were partly STEM subjects. So I did biology, chemistry, English literature, and Spanish. I don't know Spanish anymore, even though I did it for 8 years. But yeah, I applied for pharmacy at university. I really didn't want to do it, so much at my parents' dismay, being from South Asian culture, if you know, I rejected pharmacy on results day. They were terrified. I took a gap year and I worked, I traveled a bit. It was one of the best years I had. And I researched different careers. I was looking at how tech was taking lots of jobs. It sounded like an amazing career. And I went and did lots of kind of industry days and shadowing different people that I could get hold of. It seemed like the right career for me. And then I applied the next year for software engineering at university, which I then converted into computer science.
Brilliant. And such a brave decision to make on results day. So really
Yeah.
inspiring. Thank you. Shav, would you like to share your experience?
Yeah, sure. Quite similar to Zoya. I felt like the tech life chose me, and I didn't really choose the tech life. So originally, I was working in banking for like 5 years. So I spent my time doing that whilst studying for a languages degree in French and Spanish, part-time. And I didn't want to work in banking. Quite similar to Zoya, my parents were very persistent in wanting me to work in a bank. They were like, no, you're either going to be a lawyer or you're going to be a banker. Which one? And I was like, fine, I'll do banking. So I did that for 5 years. I'll be very honest, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't really feel like I had a purpose in life, and particularly my career life. So I was thinking during the pandemic, I thought, let's just quit my job. Very impulsively, just quit my job and go back to the drawing board and have a little think about what I want to do and what's out there. And tech kind of just sprung out to me because it was ever evolving. And on top of that, it was mainly the issues that particularly that wasn't many people of color, particularly women of color in tech. And I was just like, I would love to be like a role model, some sort of representation in that, so that black women could be a part of this space as well. It doesn't have to be all men. So what I did was that I applied for a boot camp, and that 30-week full stack development boot camp was actually provided by Coding Black Females, an organization based in London. So I did that virtually, and I was with 39 other black women that want to pivot into tech, and that want to make that difference into the space. So it was really wholesome to be part of that community and to be in that sort of safe space. And I thought, I'm really looking forward to that next job in tech, because I'm ready to just basically break down those barriers and just get started into, making tech more inclusive. Obviously, of course, there are other inclusive spaces in tech, but other inclusive spaces, well, more spaces need to be more inclusive in different industries, but tech is definitely one of those that need to be one of those. So yeah, that's basically a little snippet of my life to how I'm here today in tech.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That's been so interesting to hear that. Thank you. Kirsty, do you want to share your journey?
Yes, of course. I'm a bit like the two previous answers. I kind of just fell into a career in tech, but I actually started my working life as a travel agent of all things. So how you make that jump from travel agent to tech is interesting. I'm not entirely sure how that happened, but I didn't do a degree. I didn't go to university. I did my A-levels, and then I got an opportunity to work abroad for a little while. And as a teenager, obviously you jump at the chance to do that kind of thing. So I went and did that for a while. And then when I came back, I lived with my dad, and my dad told me to get off my ass and go and get a job, which is fair. So there was a travel agency, a high street travel agency that also offered apprenticeships. So I figured that it'd be quite cool to do something that I could learn on the job and earn some money. I think when I worked as a travel agent, the thing that became really apparent to me really quickly was that I had a passion for creating amazing experiences for people. And I don't think that's ever really gone away then after when I came out of the travel industry, because let's be honest, it pays absolute peanuts. I moved into more of a customer service role, so working in an account management role after that. So I was looking after varying different sectors for a telematics firm. If no one knows what that is, it's vehicle and asset tracking, real sexy stuff. So I was looking after many of their sort of public and private sector clients, and across that time, listening to what those customers wanted, I started to become a little bit obsessed with taking their problems and building solutions for them. And it was definitely more focused on like how we visualize data and taking sort of tracking data and turning it into a story that customers could understand, and customers could like, you know, start to solve their own problems on their own and create independence in the businesses. And that was really nice to sort of see that all come together. So in that time, the business that I worked for was quite a small startup type business. So you had quite a lot of autonomy to go and like, you know, find a problem and go and try and solve it yourself. You felt empowered to do that. So I started to work with their in-house developers and started to sort of capture all of these requirements. And unbeknown to me, this was actually a role that was forming in tech under the sort of umbrella of product management. But at the time, I was just listening to people, understanding what they needed and translating it into, I guess, user stories, but at the time was more just a list of stuff to send into the development team. After doing that for a little while, I started to work. Well, there was a new CTO that came into the business who kind of identified this as a function and became a sort of junior product manager and probably a business analyst all rolled up into one, really. And I did some really cool stuff there. I then started to build a brand new interactive app for them that started to take all of that data and start to provide the opportunity for those customers to look at their own data trends and build their own stories and build their own reports. And I was that middleman, and I just really loved it. Really loved like doing all that kind of stuff. So worked there for 8 years, and then I moved into a job at Sky, which all of you have probably heard of, and started to work for their Sky service. So it was just, I did loads of stuff there. And I think the biggest thing for me from sort of travel agency into product, there was a big kind of correlation with the MVQ that I did in my apprenticeship was all around customer services, and actually that lent itself really well. You wouldn't think that would lend itself to like a product manager role, but ultimately what we do in our day-to-day role now is building brilliant products and brilliant experiences, which essentially is a user service, customer service. So all of that really translated really well into what I enjoy doing now. More recently, should I say, in my career, I've headed up full product delivery projects, working alongside Julie actually at Sky for our chatbot solution at Sky. So there was loads of stuff there from a product perspective that I just got to really speak to customers and really understand what they want and build brilliant experiences. And now you guys are stuck with me forever.
Oh, that's amazing, Kirsty. I absolutely love listening to your journey. Starting out in travel agency and getting into product. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to move on to my next question. So my next question is around what was your experience with technology as a subject in school, university, college? How did you find that? And I'm going to go to Leah, Patrick Leah first.
Thanks, Cam. I think during my time, I did like high school, I was in Cyprus, and I had to choose. I did some coding and learned kind of programming basis. And I think by the time, I think I was kind of influenced a little bit of my sister because she was studying computer science at the time. So I think I had her as my role model. And I think but I didn't want to do coding. I was just kind of like, that's interesting, but I don't want to do this as a job. And then I found like an undergraduate course in Cyprus, which was called Multimedia and Graphic Design. And that involved many different areas, from graphic design to web design, 3D modeling. And with all of these disciplines, it was the first time I introduced to like a human-centered design. And after my graduation, I kind of got to like a marketing team as a graphic designer, but it was still very curious for UX. And then I kind of enrolled in like a master in user experience design. So I think kind of now everything makes sense to me. But yeah, this is kind of my journey. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I know you've made such an impact with the work that you've done here. So that's fantastic to hear. Julie, do you want to share your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I didn't actually take any tech-related subjects at college or uni, which is probably unsurprising if people know me very well. I did economics, law, and business. I don't think I actually even considered a career in tech at that point. Yeah, and I think there was a very, very, very strong perception about IT and technology all being male, full of geeks, and it was not appealing to me in the slightest. And I wish there was the same level of awareness that's just becoming stronger and stronger, like there is today when I was at uni. And I don't think it even occurred to me that there was a wider ecosystem, like that there was more to tech than just development. And all of the other roles around development actually help deliver that business value and that business benefit. And that just wasn't obvious to me back then. So yeah, I came in, but without any tech related subjects. That was my journey.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there as well. I think that there needs to be loads of focus on changing that perception of it, much further upstream, because my understanding of tech, at school, totally different. I think I could do a really good slideshow, but I've definitely learnt loads through my career too. So I agree with that completely. Zoya?
Yeah, mine's quite formal. So I studied IT at GCSE, but it was kind of your standard IT, no programming, no coding. I didn't do it for A level, and then obviously during my gap year, I applied for computer science at university. Well, I started off in software engineering, but it was kind of a gamble going into it. I didn't know if it was going to work out, but it's one of the best things I've ever done. I really enjoyed programming. It was my first formal introduction to it. A lot of people were surprised that I'd never wrote a line of code before kind of my first module. And it just, I just loved it. I think the thing that was quite surprising to me was when I first walked in on my first day, there was around about 100 of us, and there was only 12 women. I counted them on the first day. And I'm hoping with some of the stuff that we are doing within and going to our schools and things like that, that we can really drive women into those courses that lead you into tech, or just provide that inspiration even outside of that formal route with boot camps and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. It'd be great to get that number way up from 12 and much closer to that 100 for representation of women. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. My next question is, are there any current tech women that you found particularly inspiring and you could tell us more about them? So I'm going to go to Heraclea first for that one.
For me, I think I greatly kind of admire Ginny Rometty, which is a highly respected woman in the tech industry, who made a history as the first female CEO of IBM. And thanks to her leadership, IBM has become a leader in hypercloud, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing. But she wasn't only great in technical skills, she was very dedicated herself to foster an inclusion in the workplace for all genders and races. And some of her work included the launching of PT Tech School, which is a unique public education model that provides high school students for underrepresented backgrounds with skills for competitive STEM jobs. And although she retired from IBM in December of 2020, Rometty continues to serve on multiple boards, and I think now co-chairs OneTech, which is a coalition dedicated to upskilling, hiring, and promoting 1 million Black women Black Americans into family sustainable jobs by 2030, and I found that really impressive, inspiring.
Yeah, really impressive. What a great mission to have. Next up, Zoya.
I think this is quite a hard one for me to think about role models. Again, because I fell into tech, I didn't really have role models or look for any. And I can still say that I don't have any other than the women in Murray. Definitely, I think coming into Murray and seeing all the amazing women in tech, the developers, the UX designers and PAs, they're the role models for me. I think that is because I'm looking for people who look like me, so women in color. So I think it's really important when you are looking for those role models to drive your personal career, to have people who you can really build a connection with. So I'm yet to find that role model, but for now, it's all the women at Murray.
Oh, absolutely love that answer. Yeah, we're completely blessed in our club with some outstanding Andys. So thank you for shouting them out, Zoya. Next up, Shav.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do a better response. But yeah, for me, I find it difficult because I feel like I know quite a few women in colour, and I can't put them all in this one sort of answer. But one of them that I will talk about is a lady called Dr. Anne-Marie Infidon, and not only she's a entrepreneur, but she is one of many Black women in tech that advocates for diversity and equality in science, well, in tech. And I found out about her just after winning like a little giveaway that Coding Black Females was organizing for a personalized signed copy of her recent book called She's in Control. So just to give like a little background to why I think she's inspiring, because she passed her computing A-level at the age of 11. And by the age of 16, she was accepted to University of Oxford to study maths and computer science. And that, to me, particularly, I find that pretty amazing as an adult. If I knew about that, let's say when I was like in secondary school, that would be someone that I would look up to. And I think in 2013, Anne-Marie also co-founded an organization called STEMettes, which you might know about, particularly name goes around in LinkedIn. It's an award-winning social initiative dedicated to inspiring and promoting the next generation of young women basically in STEM sectors. So I find that inspiring because that's one of my few missions that I would like to do is like get more women to tech and start them from young personally. So yeah. And also probably another little shout out within but I don't know if she's on this call, but Catherine Taylor, she's a people lead in Club Spark and incredibly inspiring, particularly looking up to a woman in leadership as well. There's not many Black women in leadership. That's probably another discussion for another day with like many complications and with imbalances, but absolutely amazing. Like just that huge shout out if she's there, just to be like, you're doing great as always.
Thank you. I'm here and I'm blushing and feeling very embarrassed, but thank you so much.
Oh yeah. And I work so closely with Catherine, and it's an absolute privilege to know her. So just thanks for everything you do, Catherine. I know you make such a difference.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, and I'm definitely going to check out this lady's book as well. I mean, that sounds so incredible. To make those achievements at the age of 11 and 16 is really awe-inspiring. So it took me a long time to get my GCSE in maths. So I am in awe of that lady. Thank you. Kirsty?
Yeah, sure. So mine's probably a little bit more of a personal sort of experience, I guess, in terms of who I found really inspiring. But so it was about 4 or 5 years ago, and I went to a Women in Tech event through that was promoted through Sky at the time. And I was kind of just on this sort of slight trajectory of like moving from sort of more junior product roles into more senior product roles, and there's a lot of like imposter syndrome type feelings that come with that sort of move. So I went along to this, and at the time there was the main speaker at this event was she's moved on now, but she was the CIO at Channel 4 at the time. Her name's Charlotte Light, and she stood up in front of the crowd, quite a big crowd at the time. And she just started to just chat. And I know that sounds like a really subtle thing and a non-thing to talk about, but she was just so personal and really informal and actually just really humble. So she, I think there's a perception that, people in leadership, not necessarily just women or whatever, but people in leadership, have a certain type of presence that they have to have when they're in such situations or scenarios. And she just came across instantly like she was being 100% herself. There was no facade. There was no, you just felt like you were really seeing her. She brought humor. She kind of had this sense of not taking things too seriously, which I like to think that that's me a little bit. And just a lot of the way that she was just really resonate. I could really relate to her really quickly. And I know my husband's on this call, and I remember him just listening to me up all night talking about how amazing she was. But yeah, she was very clear in her narrative. Like you could tell she was just really bloody good at her job. She started to talk about really personal experiences in her life to get her to where she was in her career, even things as tough subjects that as women, especially in the workplace, we find it almost like taboo to talk about. Things like the difficulty in trying to become a mother, not necessarily being a mother, but even wanting to balance your career as well as actually go through really dark times of not being able to conceive straight away, and really personal topics that you would think shouldn't really be brought into the workplace. She talked about that, and then she also talked about things like how to be assertive in a real male-dominated industry, which we know the tech industry can be. But she sort of talked about that balance of being assertive and being yourself without turning into a bit of a tool yourself. And she just got the balance right, and I was just absolutely in awe. I genuinely felt like it was just me and her in the room, and I've followed her since. I think I've even messaged her like some sort of weird fangirl. But yeah, it just really resonated with me that actually in that moment I felt like all those nerves that you get about presenting, even doing things like this, the key is just to be yourself, and you just come across so much more natural. And I think that's really helped me progress in my career.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I think it's amazing when you connect with the speaker on so many different levels and it stays with you during your career. I know that that's happened to me a couple of times as well, and I think it's such a powerful experience to have. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I'm going to move on to a next question, which is what challenges do you think women have faced in tech? And I'm going to go to Julie first, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. Controversially, I guess I've not personally experienced any obvious challenges in my career. The worst comment I've had was someone said to me, "You don't look like a typical project manager." I guess because I wasn't a man and I wasn't wearing a suit. This happened to me when I was working at Lloyds Banking Group. That comment sort of bounced right off me because, well, I'm an individual. I think we're all unique, and I don't really want to be compared to anyone else, and I don't think anyone else should be either, really. I think from my point of view, my biggest challenge has been me. I think I've been my own biggest blocker. I've had lots more opportunities than I've actually taken, I think. And, well, some people might find this hard to believe, but I did suffer with a lack of confidence, probably up until the last 5 or 10 years. And it's taken me a long time to work through that. So any opportunity that presented itself, I always thought I need to be able to do that perfectly. I need to be able to nail every single thing on that tick list before I can even apply for that job. And that's not actually true. And I think having a good amount of some of the skills, being happy to work with others and fit into a team, have an aptitude for learning, much more important than ticking every single thing on a job advert. And I think cultural fit is something that you just can't buy. I see how important that is here at And. I've been so happy working here and just being able to be me. So that's my response, Cam.
Yeah, and I think that's just fantastic advice. You know, I definitely resonate with lots of the things that you've just said, and I'm so pleased that the culture makes you feel like, you know, you can go to work and be your full self, and that's just fantastic. Definitely music to my ears as the people lead. That's how I want everyone to feel when they come to work. So next up, Harriet, can I come to you for your answer on that?
Yeah, I think very similar to Julie. I feel kind of personally is kind of, as a female in tech industry, one of our biggest obstacles is kind of our kind of own self-limiting beliefs. And I think it just believes like society or the way we grow up, it kind of led us to kind of doubt and insecurities and kind of the lack of confidence in our abilities, and just kind of start questioning our skills and downplay our kind of achievements. And sometimes like feel you don't even belong into like that. I think that feeling is quite challenging to overcome. And just I think the hardest thing is like to challenge the mindset and kind of overcome this belief, because that's the only way to succeed in tech. And for me, it was just kind of sometimes, at this moment at least, I can't say I'm not confident or anything, but I'm working on it. And it's almost kind of accepting that this voice is saying, oh, you're not good enough, is kind of gonna still be here in your head. And then you just kind of learn to ignore it almost, and then gradually kind of build your confidence. And this is how I train to see it. Yeah, and another challenge, it might be kind of a smaller thing. One is just kind of very simple, but even just being interrupted in meetings, or even to have a chance to speak up. I don't know if you ever experienced that, but I think, yeah, it's a small thing, and I think having even men in your team, they can support and kind of advocate for you. It's great, though you wouldn't need to, but sometimes, like as a kid, our own unconscious bias that lead to those behaviors. So you just you need to learn to navigate and be confident to challenge these behaviors back. So yeah, I'll say that my challenges within tech.
Yeah, those are all fantastic points. And I think you're right. You know, confidence does come, doesn't it, with over time and with experience. And you know, I hope that it's not people's experiences that they're regularly overspoken in meetings. But yeah, it's fantastic if we can continue to build each other up as well and make sure that we all have that voice, you know, when we go into meetings. Thank you for sharing that. Zoya?
So I think the biggest challenge that I see is lack of female role models. It's something that I definitely saw at university, not having any female lecturers for the 4 years that I was there, and being one of 12 women with over 100 people on my course, it looked like my future in tech was pretty bleak. So yeah, lack of female role models is a pretty big challenge. I think they are there, they just need to be highlighted more, especially from a young age, from a school age, so that we can encourage more women to go into tech, specifically women who are of women of color and ethnic minorities, to see that we women of color do exist in tech and are thriving and are successful. I think Leah touched upon it there. Unconscious bias is a challenge. I think personally for me, it's not something that I've ever thought about, because my ethnicity and my religion, which I wear at the forefront, has always been my superpower, because it's my individuality rather than something that someone can have a bias of me. So I know that challenge exists, that bias is there, but for me, I've always championed it. And again, to overcome those challenges, we just have to talk about that bias and the general perception that we have of women in tech.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. I mean, 4 years on your course without a single female lecturer, that really says a lot. I mean, it'd be fantastic to see that change in the future as we encourage more people into tech. And I think it, like I said before, it really starts, doesn't it, at that grassroots level, you know, right back at school. So I know that in our club, I know that when we can, we get those opportunities to help the school children as well. And I think that's a fantastic impact that we make. Thank you for sharing that with me. Kirsty? Oh, I think we're on mute.
Hi. I don't think I've got much more to add over and above what the others have said, really. I think, you know, I don't think I've got much more to add on that one, to be fair.
That's absolutely fine. And come to you next on the next question. How could we encourage more diversity into starting a career in tech? Would you like to go first, Kirsty?
I think it's more around, I mean, we've talked about it quite a lot over the themes that we've talked about so far in some of the questions, in that, you know, it is around getting in early in the schools. It is around, you know, just being present and being, you know, being on stage and embracing who you are and that sort of thing. You know, I don't think diversity isn't necessarily just, you know, ethnicity or whatever. It's about, you know, me as a mum, I quite like to think that brings a different diverse type of thinking. People who have had a career for so many years and then want to move into a different career in tech, and actually that is, you know, how do I start that when I've already been on this massive career path over here, and just actually celebrating that is possible. One of the things that I'm actually part of is a charity called Mentor Mums, and as part of that I well, kind of does where it says on the tin, but it's mums that are either trying to get back into work after not just a maternity leave, but it could have been, you know, for years of looking after young children and then not knowing what they want to do because they found this new self, like, you know, new joy of different things since becoming a mum. And part of my role is to just help them overcome what they think their personal blockers might be. We've touched on that quite a few times in some of the answers today around personal blockers, but it's actually just knowing that those conversations are always possible to have. So yeah, I think that's my answer on that, Cam.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely check out Mentor Mums. You know, I know that that's something I'm actively thinking about. You know, I've worked full time and been full throttle in my career, you know, since leaving university, and it's definitely part of my thought process already about what does that return to work look like for me, and how can I achieve my career goals while also being a good mum and a good wife. So I know that I've got loads of things, and hopefully when I come back to work I'll have a new perspective that I can also bring to the table as well. So I really I'm going to check that out. Thank you for highlighting that.
All right.
Shav, may I come to you?
Yeah, I think particularly more female representation, particularly touching from what Zoya said in the last question. I think we need more female representation, but from an educational sort of level. Because like particularly there's an event that us women did at Club Murray with Girl Tech quite a few weeks back, and something like that, looking at young women and being inspired and asking those questions, you know, it gives them that, just giving that exposure from early, really, to be like, this is for you, and at least to have that option whether they want to do it or not. And on top of that, I think probably to get more diversity, I would probably say in regards to like recruiting people from like that don't have that sort of traditional sort of background, as like, oh, they don't have a STEM degree, let's say they have like a languages degree like myself, but they've got a boot camp, you know, something like that should be more embraced, more accepted across all all tech companies, because that, how can I say, that traditional sort of route is not the be all and end all, the gospel, whatever you want to call it, because like particularly those that didn't have that sort of traditional path, let's say that had experience in, let's say, project management in finance and then went into like a boot camp, for example, for coding, you know, they still have that experience to cross skill into tech and to provide other companies. So yeah, I think that should be thought about.
Yeah, 100%. I think those are all really great ideas. Zoya?
I think both what Kirsty and Shav have said is brilliant. I think additionally, more male allyship would be great. Wherever you go, whatever space that you're in, just for men to advocate for women to be in tech and to have that voice and to have that same to have that equality, and also to like for tech companies to have vested interest in schools, like others have mentioned already. If we start early, get into schools and show that women have a space in the digital sphere, we can get more women into tech.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that the schools have got a massive role to play in that, and I think probably they will look to us as the industry experts to guide them on it as well. You know, I think it's very much a very intertwined relationship with moving that dial, and I'd love to see those changes coming through. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to move to my next question, if that's okay. What initiatives or opportunities would you like to see from the education system to encourage young women or girls into tech? And I'll go to Julie.
Yes. I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, just cutting through that perception of IT being male only and just about development. It is so much more than that. And I think we can do much more to help showcase or model what happens in the real world, to help young women and girls consider a career in tech. I don't think we do enough of that. I think we've started to do more of it, but yeah, there's definitely more we can do in that space. And just being really clear about the different types of things you can do. So like Leia is a designer, and so if you're quite creative, that might be a good career path for you. If you're more of a detailed person and quite analytical, then maybe being a product analyst is a good career choice. And if you love planning, there's delivery pathways. We definitely need more female developers as well, for sure. That's definitely changing slowly. Lots of great things are happening with boot camps and uni courses, but I think the theme that's coming through the whole discussion we've had this afternoon is things maybe need to change much earlier in the education system with role models and courses and, well, just general awareness of what actually a career in tech means.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, I kind of stumbled into my career and then into the industries which I was within, but I massively agree with that. There's so much more we can do to help educate the children. Fantastic. Okay, Harriet, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I totally agree from what Julie said. And I think it's also to promote diversity in the tech industry. We need to kind of recognize like the value that diverse people and women bring to the table and really showcase like why it's important to be and kind of break this stereotypic image by showing the value we bring to the table, and also just kind of focus that there's some different skills, not only technical, it's like problem solving and natural critical thinking, creativity and adaptability that individuals, they need to prepare for all in industry, and it's not just coding, as Julie said. So yeah, there are many pathways to get to tech. So I think just breaking the stereotype and showcase what we're doing and early on is something we could definitely help. Yeah,
I definitely agree with everything you just said. Sure. Okay. Kirsty, I've got a couple of minutes left. Would you like to give me your
Yeah, can do. So, I mean, mine's probably, again, more around what we can do early on in schools. And I think, you know, rather than focusing on like the subjects themselves, I do think that there needs to be a bigger focus in like even from early years type curriculums to focus on how we challenge our own bias thoughts. I think when I was at school, sounds like I'm old, but when I was at school, my environment was very different to like what my children are having right now. So there wasn't the whole social media, there wasn't internet, there wasn't all of these different resources all around me that probably like, you know, for our children now have quite an impact on the way that they think. So actually just to be able to bring them more aware of things like confirmation bias, you know, you can understanding what happens in that scenario. Like, you know, you think a thought because you've seen one thing, and then ultimately you see everybody else, you know, like you kind of go down a rabbit hole of then sort of validating that thinking, and then you think that as well, and actually maybe you don't think that. And this comes back to even just like the stereotypes of, you know, kids storybooks, or, you know, we are breaking that down a little bit more, like, you know, firemen and policemen, and, you know, rather than, you know, all of that kind of thing. I genuinely think that there needs to be a lot more emphasis on challenging your biases in various different guises, so that kids can actually just challenge their own thoughts a little bit more. And I think that ultimately having that conscious thought process as you grow up, rather than having to, as an adult, almost retrain when you get into these situations, it almost just lends itself to an easier way of creating more equal opportunities in the workplace.
Yeah, definitely. Your point on fireman as a term, you know, my sister, she's a firefighter. It's something I'm really proud of, and I know that, you know, she often has the school children come to see the fire engine, and she does like demonstrations for them. And I think it's really awe-inspiring to see, you know, her really challenge that stereotype and the terminology that was used traditionally to describe it. So I'm all behind that as well. Okay, I feel like I could keep going on asking absolutely loads of questions. I've really enjoyed it and the time's flown, but I am conscious that we might have callers on the line who have some questions that they would like to put to the panel. So this last 6 minutes, I was just going to turn it over for any audience questions that we might have. So I don't know whether any have come through or if anybody would like to ask a question. I'll just pause for a second in case anybody is typing. Okay, if you do have any questions in the audience, just drop them in the channel and we'll ask them. I have a final question, which I'm going to put to all of the panelists today. What technology advancement are you most looking forward to, and why? And Zoya, I'm going to come to you first.
The unmute button wasn't working. Green tech. My title is Nature Lover. I love everything about the outdoors, and I would love for us to do something about saving it, because if you don't watch the news, we are in dire need of doing something about climate change. So I really believe that we can have great advancements in green technology. There are already some cool advancements around kind of the clean air zones that you see, and things like that. So I'm really excited to see where green tech goes, and what we can do to just better our everyday, just our everyday. Yeah.
Brilliant. I would be a massive fan of that too. I know that you're a fellow gardening enthusiast like myself, so I would be really up for any of those technology advancements. We do have a question that's come through. It's from Catherine. Yeah, more bees. For those of you that don't know, my title's Hopeful Beekeeper. If you could advise your 17-year-old self something about being a female in tech, what would it be? Who would like to take that one?
I don't mind, unless someone to. I would say to my 17-year-old self, be brave, be fearless, be bold. Literally, what is the worst that can happen? I think we're worth so much more than we just tell ourselves, and we can absolutely do whatever we set out to our minds to do. I mean, if we take all these amazing role model women we've talked about today as well, we can absolutely smash through any perceptions, glass ceilings. We can do all of that stuff. Genuinely work with very many exceptionally talented women. They've got so much to offer, and I'm really excited to see more of that coming through. But yeah, get a mentor, get someone that's going to champion you and help you drive your career forward, but believe in yourself. That's what I would say.
Absolutely love that. Does anybody else want to give some advice to their 17-year-old self?
I might give it a go.
Go for it.
I think for me, firstly, I'd probably tell myself to slow down. Like, how can I say it? I would just, when I was younger, I always think I have to decide life from now, sort of thing. And if I could go back, I'd be like, you don't have to do that all now. Just enjoy what you've got now, and everything will come into course later. And another thing I would probably say to myself is find your tribe. Like they're out, like, you know, there's definitely someone, like something, or whether it's an organization or a group or just someone, there's someone there that's similar to you, and you'll align with them and you will soar.
I think that's great advice for sure. Yeah, find your passion and follow it. I love that. And it's a great spot as well to, you know, slow down and enjoy the ride. I think that's such valuable advice. I know I'm guilty of it sometimes, rushing from one thing to another, and really I need to just value that moment. So thank you. Right, we've got 2 minutes left. Does anybody else want to have a go at the advice to your 17-year-old self, or piece of tech you're most looking forward to?
I can do the one. Oh, sorry, go on. Go on.
Yeah, I can do the technology just because I'm really excited, and I know I'm really looking forward for creating AI experience for people, and I see kind of tons of potential, and there's so many chances for people to team up with machines. And I know it's a bit controversial at the moment, and I believe this year AI went viral with ChatGPT, but as a technology has been here for decades. But I think, and there definitely a risk involved. But if, like, as people creating products in tech, we educate ourselves and kind of take responsibility to develop like AI products ethically, it can be like a huge milestone for humanity. And it's also, again, when diversity and inclusion in tech, I think, is more important than ever, since we need to build all this and train this model. So it's really, really important to cover all these things. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm not gonna lie, a little bit scared, but really looking forward to that.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, I think we're going to have to watch this space, aren't we? It's going to be really interesting to see what diversity of thought can sort of lead to different AI inventions. So we'll have to definitely see what's going to come. So we've got 1 minute till time. So I just want to thank everyone for today. It's been really awesome to spend my Friday afternoon with you all. I've really felt like I've learned a lot, I've reflected a lot, and I'm going into the weekend feeling, you know, really positive and really proud to work in such a fantastic club. So thank you to all of the Andys who've participated today. Thank you so much to everyone who's dialed in, left us a question or left us a positive comment. Thank you so much. I hope you all have fantastic weekends. I hope you get to rest and enjoy the sunshine, and I will see you, lots of you, next week. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.